There's a secret I've been keeping for 50 years, and until very recently I believed I would take it with me. My name is George. I'm 82 years old, and what I'm about to tell you is something I've only ever said out loud to myself, alone, in the early hours of the morning when the house is quiet and the weight of it gets too heavy to carry in silence. I want to start by telling you about my brother George. And yes, we shared the same name. Thomas. We called him by his middle name to keep things simple. Thomas was 3 years younger than me, and growing up, he was the kind of person that rooms change for. Not because he was loud or showy, quite the opposite. He was the kind of quiet that draws people in. Patient, steady, the sort of man who listened to you so completely that when he finally said something back, it felt like the truest thing you'd ever heard. We were close in the way that only brothers who've survived the same household can be close. Not always together, not always in agreement, but woven into each other in a way that doesn't come undone, no matter how much distance or time comes between you. Our father was not an easy man to grow up under. I say that without anger now because I'm old enough to understand that he was also a man who had been broken in ways he never found the language for. He came from a generation that swallowed everything and called it strength. But what it meant for Thomas and me was that we learned very early to take care of each other because no one else in that house was going to do it. I was the older one. That always meant something in our family. It meant I was the one who stepped in when things went sideways. And when I was 29 years old, things went very sideways. Our father fell ill. Not the kind of ill that gave you time to prepare. The sudden kind. The kind that lands on a family like a stone dropped from a great height, and everyone underneath it scrambles in different directions, not knowing what to hold and what to let go. He needed care. Significant care. Our mother had already passed by then, and so the responsibility fell to us, to me and Thomas. I was the older one. I was already married, already working, already building something. Thomas was 26. He had just been accepted into an engineering program in another city, the kind of opportunity that doesn't come twice. He had worked for that acceptance for years. I knew what it cost him. I knew what it meant, and I made a decision without telling him I had made it. I spoke to the doctor alone. I spoke to the social services coordinator alone. I arranged for our father's care in a way that meant someone needed to remain close by, available, reachable. And when the time came to sit down with Thomas and discuss what we were going to do, I presented the situation in a way that made it seem as though there was only one possible shape it could take. That one of us needed to stay. That I couldn't be the one to stay because of my work, my wife, my obligations. And Thomas, because he was Thomas, said quietly that he understood, that he would defer the program. That family came first. He said it without resentment. That's what has followed me all these years. There was no anger in him when he said it. Just that steadiness of his, that quiet willingness to bear what needed to be borne. And I sat across the table from my brother and I let him make that sacrifice on the basis of information I had shaped. I had not lied to him outright, but I had arranged the truth in a way that left him no visible door. He never went back to the program. Life filled in around that closed door the way it always does. He found work nearby. He met a woman. He built a life that was, by most measures, a good one. He was not unhappy. I want to be careful to say that because it matters. Thomas was not a man who lived in misery. But there was something in him, some particular light, some version of himself that had been pointed in a certain direction that never quite found its way back. He became an estimator for a construction firm, respected, competent. He told me once, many years later, that he didn't mind the work, that it used enough of his mind to keep him interested. I remember nodding as he said it and feeling the words land somewhere deep in my chest where I didn't want to examine them. We never talked about that period directly, not once in 50 years. Life gave us other things to talk about: children, grandchildren, the ordinary accumulation of years. And I told myself for a long time that what I had done was pragmatic, that someone had to stay, that it would have been equally disruptive for my own family if I had been the one to give up my position. I told myself that Thomas had built a good life regardless, that the damage, if there was damage, was not visible enough to count. But I have learned at 82 that invisible damage is still damage, and I've learned that the stories we tell ourselves to make our choices bearable have a way of thinning with age until the thing underneath them is standing there very plainly, asking to be looked at. Thomas is 79 now. He lives about 40 minutes from me. We see each other on holidays, sometimes more. He still has that quality of stillness about him, still listens the way he always did. His health has not been good these past 2 years, nothing immediately threatening, but the kind of slow news that reminds you both that the number of visits left is no longer something you can avoid counting. I have sat with the question of whether to tell him for longer than I can properly explain. There are mornings I wake up and I feel certain he deserves to know, that it belongs to him, that his own story has a piece missing that I have been holding without his consent, and that the honest thing, the decent thing, would be to place it back in his hands before I no longer have the chance. And then there are other mornings where I sit with my coffee and I think about what it would actually mean to hand him that information now, at 79, with the life he has already lived, the children he raised, the years of work, the version of himself he has made peace with. I ask myself whether the truth at this point would give him anything he can use, or whether it would simply unsettle a foundation that has held him for half a century in the final years when he most needs it to hold. I don't know the answer. I have gone back and forth so many times that I no longer trust my own reasoning on the matter. I suspect that part of my desire to tell him is not entirely for his sake, that there is some part of me that wants to confess, not because it would heal him, but because it would lighten something in me. And that strikes me as a thing worth sitting with honestly before I do anything. What I know is this: I made a choice when I was 29 years old that I dressed up as circumstance. I was not cruel. I did not act from malice. But I acted from self-interest and called it necessity, and my brother was the one who paid the cost of that particular fiction. I have wondered often what the engineering might have given him. Not the career exactly, but the expression of himself that the career would have carried. Whether there were problems he would have solved, things he would have built, a version of his own intelligence he would have finally gotten to live out in the open. I'll never know. He'll never know. That not knowing is part of what I carry. I'm not telling you this because I have a lesson prepared for the end of it. I'm telling you because I'm 82 years old and I've learned that most of the things that matter don't resolve cleanly. They don't arrive at a moment where everything becomes clear and forgiveness lands softly and the weight lifts. Mostly they just sit with you and you sit with them, and over time you learn to be honest about the shape of what you did and what it cost someone else. If Thomas is listening to this someday, and I don't know that he ever will, I want him to know that I have thought about that afternoon at the kitchen table more times than I could possibly count. That I know what I did, that the life he built was genuinely his and genuine and worth something that has nothing to do with me, and that I have carried this not because I forgot about it, but because I never once did. That's all I have. Some days that feels like very little. Other days it feels like the most honest thing I've ever managed to say.